report released by the National Bureau of Statistics here in Nigeria says the country's headline inflation rate has dropped to 16.05% in October 2025. According to the report, the inflation rate fell from the 18.02% recorded in September. However, it says on a month-on-month basis, headline inflation rose by 0.93% in October. The NBS Consumer Price Index, as well as the inflation report, shows a slight easing in food prices, with food inflation declining by 0.37% month-on-month. Now, the figure represents the 7th consecutive month of decline in the country's inflation rate this year. According to the NBS, the 12-month average urban inflation rate was 22.68% in October of the year, which is 11.84 percentage points lower than the 34.52% reported in October of the previous year. Well, I'm now joined by Arise News business anchor Boason Omofaye to discuss this latest report. Thank you so much. I'm smiling ear to ear because it's such an honor to have you on the news tonight.
Thank you so much.
The encyclopedia of business. Inflation. That's how I like to call you.
Inflation.
Inflation.
Inflation is
yes.
Inflation is about.
But the figures are dropping so fast. I mean, how did we get
dropping like hot potato? You talk about how many months of consecutive decline?
7.
A few things are working, by the way, and let's start from there before we go into what goes into a plate of jollof, for example, and why it looks like the inflation rate is slowing down, but inflationary pressure are not really easing because there are a few things around that. But first, there's stability in the exchange rate, even though it's still at 1,400 level or thereabout, but it's a little bit stable. So investors are a little bit comfortable with that. Markets want some stability, investors, so they want that. You have the base effect coming through from the rebasing that we did. So that's also a little bit okay. Some measure of improvement in agriculture and agro-allied. Some little improvement despite the problem with insecurity around some of the food basket. So you've got some of the positives as it were. And then, of course, the pains of the 2023-2024 exchange rate alignment and subsidies seem to be fading out. Companies have adjusted prices. People have also adjusted their expenditure and lifestyle accordingly. So there's a little bit of a moderation to the new, what they call the new reality. So you get it. And that's where this inflation easing could be coming from, okay, in which people now say, well, there's a bit of a normalization, even though it's an abnormal situation because we're coming from 500, 300 exchange rate to 1,400. It's high abnormality. But then we are now adjusting to the new normal, as it were. So you have that situation. But if you bring it back, there's still, on a month-on-month basis, inflation was a little bit, a few notches upward from between September and October. That means that some of the supply chain issues are still out there. We're dealing with logistics issue. We're dealing with electricity high costs. We're dealing with logistics, transportation, which account for a substantial portion of everybody's spending on a day-to-day basis.
True.
And then we're also dealing with a couple of nuances that are a couple of what we consume still come from outside the country in terms of import, for example, building materials, healthcare, drugs, medications, healthcare. These haven't really substantially declined in terms of what you and I pay to ensure that we stay healthy, we eat nutritional food. Now let's come back to food, which is everyone and which the government officials will talk about. If you go to the market and buy a fresh vegetable. Yes. Now, the price of that vegetable could have come down because the season is right for it, right? Yeah. But you're not going to chew that vegetable raw. so you've got to make the fresh vegetable into vegetable soup. Now, the condiment and other ingredients that go into it, and that's why even though the vegetable could have reduced in prices, but to put that vegetable together and have some swallow or rice or whatever with it, means that your cost of feeding hasn't really trended lower. Those other ingredients remain. Now look at the cost of energy for you to make that vegetable or jollof rice. So you have to use gas, or you've got to use electricity. So you've got to buy token onto your electricity to be able to make that happen. Then the transportation to go to the market and come back to buy that vegetable. So even though food prices as well as agro prices are trending a bit lower because, again, the season and what have you, what actually put food on your table, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, haven't really gone down.
Interesting. Okay, you know, it's interesting because last year, almost by this time, President Bola Tinubu promised that the inflation then, which was about 34% upward, was going to be 15% for the 2025 budget.
Yes.
When it comes to food inflation, we are very close to that number.
Yeah, we're close. We're just about.
So how do we sustain this very quickly, Boason?
Even if it's 15%, 15% is even still high for Nigeria.
Yes.
You've got Morocco and a few other countries doing single digit. South Africa is just doing a new inflation targeting by the central bank at 3%. They're even moving from 4 to 6% down to 3%. And I can't see the reason why we can't do single digit inflation in Nigeria, considering the enormous resources that we have: water, land, weather, everything, human capital, and everything else that we should be doing 15%. But if you consider we're coming from about 30-something% last year, and urban inflation, which means Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, Benin City, Onitsha, we're doing about 32% or thereabout, double digit right now, means that we're still walking a very tightrope when it comes to inflation. So double-digit inflation in urban centers mean that in real times, the cost of living still remain very high, and there's no commensurate increase in salaries and wages, as it were, that goes into what surrounds food. So even though food prices, the basket is down, inflation rate, consumer prices are not really going down, as it were. So that vegetable could be 15 naira, 100 naira, but you need petrol at 920 naira per liter to make that vegetable. That's where we are tonight. So there's still a lot to fix.
A lot to fix. Thank you so much, Boason Omofaye. We'll be looking forward to the Arise exchange to break it further down for us in the coming days and see how it moves the needle.
No, 250 million Nigerians are breaking down inflation every day. You don't need me. Just go to the restaurant downstairs and you find out what inflation is.
If I didn't know any better, I would say vegetables were your favorite meal. Boason Omofaye is Arise News anchor for the business program Arise Exchange. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.